The XY axis defines flatlands. We can always move the puzzle pieces around and get whatever we want. But Jesus came to say, no, this isn't about religion. This isn't about rules. This isn't about this present age and its decay. Entropy is the word for that. Everything tends towards disorder, towards decay. And he said, not in my world, not in my universe, right? Not in my dimension, we'll say. Tasting the powers of the new realm, the coming age, it is not defined by rules or time or gravity. So we know all those pieces, but what he came and wants us to experience is Zoe life, which you'll see repeatedly in the ecosystem book, and that's the Z-axis. But the idea is that he came to draw us up as we lose our flesh, as we lose our life, as we crack open the alabaster jar and let the ointment flow, as we give up this present age, when we're willing to let go of the hold it has on us, the gravity of owning reputation, owning possessions, owning anything. If we let go of that, then he's able to fill us. Take up your cross, deny your very self. These are concepts that just aren't normal for humans, for mammals. Acts 2, no one counted their possessions as their own, was not socialism. It was, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore, I'm free. So whatever I get, it's in God's hands. I trust him. My life belongs to him now.
So the XY axis, as you say, that's a kind of a 2D space, yes? Like 2D space. And the offering of the Z-axis, even using 2D and 3D is insufficient, isn't it? Is insufficient as a metaphor, but it's comparable. How could something on a flat two-dimensional space appreciate that there's another dimension?